I can write about homophobia in my life in ways that no interviewer could ever capture.
I can't separate me as a person from my scholarship, but it's enriched my life.
And a lot of our patients take from 10 to 20 medications a day. I mean, what is it like?
That's what qualitative inquiry is about, isn't it?
I don't care who you are, you have to live in the world.
So welcome to the second series of Qualitative Conversations.
And we're going to hear in this programme about the work of two qualitative researchers from the United States, Dominique Hill and Durell and Dominque.
A couple of scholars that have really ignited our interest in new ways of presenting and communicating qualitative research.
Yeah, and having learnt a little bit about their work now, seeing them very much as part of a community that's perhaps at the forefront of shaping where qualitative research is going to go in the next few years, next few decades. Kitrina, how did you first come across Dominique and Durell's work?
I think I saw them perform at the Congress of Qualitative Inquiry, and their work really blew me away. Such powerful performances. I just wanted to have a chat with them about their work and ask them how they got into the work that they've been doing, which is very collaborative in the way that we try to be, I think.
So they talk a little bit in the film about a particularly unique kind of collaboration that's very much meshing their work together that seems really important and quite unusual. So we're going to hear a little bit about them talking with you about that during a conversation you had with them at the Qualitative Congress in 2017.
Yes.
And what was it that you saw them perform at that year's conference?
It was called Terrible Educations, and I couldn't really describe to you well enough what it's all about, but I think we're going to see a performance that they did after the conversation with them.
Okay, so we're going to show a few excerpts after the interview that Kitrina did with Dominique and Durell at the 2017 Congress.
So I would say in part the idea of terrible educations definitely comes from the miseducation. Thinking of two different places. So one, the Education of a Storyteller by Toni Cade Bambara as a place, and there's a quote in there, in that piece by Toni Cade Bambara that talks about the terrible educations you're liable to get. And I'm paraphrasing here, but she goes on to say, will make you destruct the journey entire. And so this idea that you're liable to get terrible educations, that the quote starts with, of course we know how to walk on water. Of course we know how to fly. And so this idea that you can receive the types of educations that will make you forget that you can fly, that you do know how to walk on water. And that piece by Toni Cade Bambara also does so much in terms of really talking about Black education in particular. So I would say that that's one of the places that we take up terrible educations, is in that legacy of Black feminists, authors, poets, artists, cultural workers who point to that. And then I would say the miseducation of Lauryn Hill also influences our thinking about
we were thinking about what's an area that really needs more activist work, and that work is in education. I mean, we often talk about education, we call it AKA schooling, AKA prison, we could think about all these sorts of things, but what are the ways that we might think about the alternative ways that we've been educated, and how might we sort of create a story that helps us trouble what education does and what education did in our own particular lives, which brought us to Miss Stansberry and Mr. Dodd.
Can you tell me then, because there's two of you doing this,
yes,
what's the creative process? What do you do?
That's a good question.
Between you?
Let's see, so our collective came out of a responsibility that we wanted to carry on the work that we learned about community-based scholarship, about communal work that was given to us by our advisor, Ruth Nicole Brown. And so we wanted to figure out how could we carry that legacy on, how could we take her teachings, take her Black feminist teaching and actually enact it. And so that was how our collaboration started. you can jump in when you feel like you
Sure.
want to take another turn. But so another piece of that element was that we were both doing work that was side by side with each other. So there were many ways that we were coming to similar work, but our genealogies were slightly different. And so a lot of our work is really thinking about how to blow up education as a sort of the sort of corporatization of education. We wanted to trouble what education is, and we're both in in education departments, but we were both very interested in like, that's not really education. So we were both writing at different points in time around different sorts of things. And so we both had issues with our teachers. We both had these issues. And so that became a part of our archive, both our individual and our collective archive.
Yeah. Having the similar teachings of working with Nicole Brown and Saving Our Lives, Hear Our Truths,
Yes.
And thinking about what does it mean to work with Black girls in community is something that we both were doing, and thinking about how art can be integral to that. What can performance teach us? What can working from the body teach us, right? And what can working in community teach us? In addition to that, we were working on dissertations that were autoethnographic, which I think is also important here. So thinking about autoethnography within education, performance autoethnography within education. And so the piece that we shared on Wednesday, right, is in part from our autoethnographies, where, you know, we were both grappling with different issues. I was thinking about the intersections of Blackness, queerness, and violence, right? And Dominique was thinking about...
I was thinking about Black girlhood, the body, and education. And so the individual pieces, the miseducation of a poet and the When It Gets in the Blood, were separate pieces that had already been written about our own experiences of education and our critiques of education in a way. And then around it, so it kind of looks like how we put stuff together. It kind of looks like, so I'm thinking about this. What do you think? That sounds interesting. So here's the themes that I'm playing with. We're thinking about miseducation, we're thinking about performance, we're thinking about disruption. Okay, put those down, we'll deal with those later. Okay, and then it's kind of this, what I can describe as the most collaborative way when I think about academic scholarship. We didn't want us to be separately writing and then trying to come together and glue that together. We wanted to really create a love voice in a way, a way to really speak as one but be two people.
It's amazing what you just said about
I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, I don't think I would.
because I think often when I look around at collaborations, it is this stick together. I do mine over here and everybody does a separate piece and they all work on it differently and no one ever speaks. But what you just said is something to aspire to.
Some of what I would also say to that is, in part, it's also about the training that we have. Like, so Hot, Saving Our Lives, Hear Our Truths is a collective. We think about Hill Awarders as a collective. And then the other thing is from ensemble work. So a part of theater training, which is also a part of my background in theater, and I would say for Dominique in dance, is also the idea of an ensemble. And so we bring that also to our scholarship to think about how is what I'm doing dependent upon the other people who are in the room or who might not be in the room, but who are integral to my ability to do the things that I need to do, right? And so like the idea of ensembles or collectives are not that we're necessarily individuals, but that we actually all need one another to create something. And it's so important. Like when you work in an ensemble, you know what happens when somebody's not there. And what are perhaps some of the political stakes, right, in this moment of thinking about who's not in the space, you know, and particularly as Black feminism like rest at a lot of what we do, we have to recognize that there are many women of color in particular who couldn't be here, who are not here, who haven't been able to operate in the academy in the same way that we do for various reasons and who made the way for us to be here. And so how can we also think about not working in silos, which is actually very much so what we think this space likes to do, is to actually kind of parcel us out to make us distinct disciplines that don't have anything to say to one another at times, that we can't always collaboratively work. How can we actually work against that type of logic that would seek to sort of unorganize our organizing around a shared responsibility, a collective responsibility, being accountable to one another and to the communities to which we say we're accountable to which we say we want our work to impact. And one more thing, I would say is also, so my shirt it has a lyric from Welevitate. Yes. I mentioned Welevitate because one of their song lyrics, a different one than the one I have on, says something along the ideas of, I gave up the idea.
Holding on to things.
Now I hold on to people. It's much riskier now.
Yes. Right.
And so what does it mean if we give up perhaps the idea of this space and the logic that it has, that would require us to maybe hold on to a lot of ideas about how to move forward in the profession, and what if we held on to people? And I think that that's also a bit of what we also are getting at in thinking about the collective. And I would say the conference too, International Congress for Qualitative Inquiry, I think it oozes all over the place that people are holding on to people rather than the idea of something. And I think that that's just super important.
Yeah.
So can I ask you, where do you, you mentioned first of all about autoethnography.
Yeah.
So tell me why that is important.
Why autoethnography for me? I mean, I dare go down uncharted paths, so I can say that simply, but also because it gives a perspective on culture that forces the person doing the work to take a sense of ownership and responsibility in what they can see, right? We often think about research as this thing, when somebody publishes it, it's just like that was what happened. No, that's what that person saw to be happening, right? When we even pull numbers, we hear the numbers and we see the numbers, but there were other things that could have been asked. There were other numbers that could have been collected. Why? These people decided that these numbers were what was important. And so autoethnography turns the lens to say, no, what, actually I'm going to be responsible in this, and I'm going to suggest that, no, what I collected and what I decided to tell was what I saw. Here's how I made sense of what I saw. Here's what it says about me, but here's what it also can say about the culture. And so to me, it holds a level of responsibility and accountability that isn't often seen in other forms of research. And I also love the constant beginning again, the constant taking apart and coming to understand autoethnography and the self in a new way. That excites me.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do now is you've both agreed to rerun the performance that you did in the special interest group on autoethnography earlier in the week. So do you fancy getting into position and into roles to do that performance now?
Sure.
Let's go for it. Okay.
Way down in the jungle deep when black folks knew how to fly, and OJ was free and Bobos were still in style, and high top fades were not on a comeback. Back before Baltimore became synonymous with the melodramatic HBO series The Wire, a half-baked depiction of my city. Back before No Child Left Behind became an empty promise for generations of Black genius standardized tests have yet to latch onto. Back when I believed without question that black folks could be anything they wanted to be. When why not was not a possibility, how was not important, and when simply a matter of time. Back then, I wanted to be the first African American president of these United States of America. The year 1992, the same year Barry Barack Obama solidified his can do no wrong card. Black man fresh out of Harvard Law marrying the one and only Michelle LaVaughn Robinson, who would be the only reason I halfway trusted her too smooth talking, selling us hope and responsibility, freedom preaching, drone dropping, only reflection I got in 44 elected husband. Me and my round, pound cake colored self, you know, the inside part, had moved through all the P's possible before settling on president. There was being a police officer, then I wanted to be a politician, and for a brief moment, as if foreseeing my own future, I wanted to be a preacher. Pilot did not make the cut at all, neither did parole officer, nor pharmacist or paramedic. My mama was at the time a paramedic, but I wanted to be the first African American president. But pound cake colored boys, you know, like on the inside, who come from my side of the tracks, cannot be the president of much else except prisons. That is what Miss Stansbury told me in front of a whole class. So she says, through bright, pale purple lipstick, what do you want to be when you grow up? Sharply, without missing a beat, the first black president? The first black president, silly as you are, won't be much else than the president of somebody's penitentiary. Silence falls. The dialogue ended. Point one for the infamously dreaded substitute teacher with frizzled orange hair, slightly balding in the middle, on brownie-colored skin. Miss Stansbury strikes again. It is now way after watching Mandela become elected president of South Africa. Just some time after I realized that RuPaul really was not a woman, meaning that my mama had been right all along, like mamas tend to be, even if they don't say it out loud. Just a little after black women's love came and found me for who knows what umpteenth time this is. Sometime after we lose MJ to some weird combination of fame, vitiligo, and being black in America, and after we realize Whitney had been drowning all along and that there are just some things an autopsy will never tell us. It is after kids no longer play outside, after metal detectors are in every school on the south side of Chicago, yet Sandy Hook still rocks parts of our nation. Yes, even after the Million Man March, all of the 50-year commemorations of the civil rights movements, and just after Don't Ask, Don't Tell is repealed, marriage equality is gaining traction, and school choice is the only choice. It is well after selfies are a thing and Twitter beefs are real, and after Blue Ivy is almost trademarked, and after we ask black girl gold medalist Olympians to not only win gold but look good, scratch that, perfect while doing it. It is well after we know the price of silence in Rwanda, and I want to go back to the silence, back to Hilton Elementary, back to the day my round pound cake colored self, you know, like on the inside, squared off with Miss Stansbury and lost. Back to the moment I had gotten in trouble one too many times for the same thing that has gotten most black boys and girls alike in trouble: our mouths. Either talking too much, not at the right time, not talking enough, caught whistling at white women, quenching thirst with Arizona tea, daring to kiss girls and like it, asking the wrong questions on Fruitvale platforms on New Year's Eve. Black mouths, whether open or shut, do not seem to have access to the Barry Barack Obama can do no wrong card. I would like to go back and say something like, well, you know what? My grandmother and my mother and my uncle and Sister Mabel and Reverend Bailey and Mama and Papa Isabel and Sister Louise and Sister Shirley and Miss Marva all seem to think I could be. They keep telling me I can be anything I want to be when I grow up. Score one for the pound cake colored boy, you know, like on the inside. The class is hysterical. There are oohs and ahs, and he's gonna get it, and giggles like giggles. Nobody like Miss Stansbury. And I mean nobody.
He entered me. Red toupee wearing Mr. Dodd entered me. Fixed me, tried to be more ladylike. Why are you sitting like that? Why you being so black, so stupid? He entered me, stabbing my thighs close. Felt like thought I heard, don't be so black. Come here, I'll fix you. Without permission, he entered, exited, entered, this time a woman. No old white man, women who raised me. Fix me, tried to be more ladylike. Books on my head, my posture fixed temporarily. She, they entered, exited, entered, teacher, another. Fix me, tried, well-meaning, good intentions, fix me, more like, break me, my spirit. Without permission, enter me, try to fix success. It's in my skin. I cry, fix, you try, broken, I am. It's in my skin. Without permission, entered, exited, entered, they did, but it never left.
Sha